Sorry I've been gone for a little bit, but I took about a week or so off in large part due to the fact that every time I would record a video and try to upload it to YouTube, it wouldn't upload. So here's hoping that after I record this, it is actually able to upload sometime within a 24-hour stretch. We'll see. But I'm back with an updated 2017 NFL mock draft. Oh, goody! And we got us a 3-round edition. 3 rounds in the description box below. Isn't that outstanding? Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit, because I'm sure some of you will notice there are some significant changes in this particular edition, and there are indeed. Now, I'll start off just quickly painting a broad brush with the top 6 picks. In terms of the top 6 picks, this is really the way I feel it should go, based off of the team picking, based off of the talent available. All 6 of these picks, Garrett to the Browns, Thomas to the 49ers, Jonathan Allen to my Bears, Fournette to the Jaguars, Malik Hooker to the Titans, Marshon Lattimore to the Jets. These 6 picks right here, as I sit here right now, they should be in that order, the first 6 picks off the board in the 2017 NFL Draft. Will they be? Remains to be seen. But when I look at those talents and look at those players and look at the fits, it just makes too much sense. Especially there's no quarterback that is worth taking in the top 10 in this draft, believe me, period. This is the way it should play out. Now, unfortunately for teams like Cleveland and San Francisco and Chicago and the Jets, quarterback needy, quarterback desperate teams, one of them may want to venture off of the reservation and gamble on a Trubisky or a Kizer or somebody, or a Deshaun Watson. But right at this moment, I cannot see it. None of these guys has really impressed to that level based off of their college work and even the off-season stuff to sit there and say that they deserve to be taken in the top 10 of the draft and really have you truly tie the future of your franchise to them. I just don't see it. So as of this moment in time, these 6 picks are pretty locked into me, unless you start hearing rumors about this or there's talk about that or somebody, is thinking something way off the wall. To me, these 6 picks in this order make a ton of sense, unless you get some negative reports about Jonathan Allen's shoulders that cause him to drop a little bit, and then all hell could potentially break loose in the NFL draft. But these are the 6 dudes to me. These are the 6 dudes. So in a lot of ways, based off of this mock draft, it starts to get kind of squirrely at picks 7 through 10. Now, that's not necessarily a bad squirrely. It's just different for me than maybe what you've seen in terms of other people's mock drafts. For the Chargers at number 7 in Forrest Gregg, there's a couple of justifications for this. Number 1, you hire a new head coach in Anthony Lynn, who is an offensive-minded guy. So it would make sense in his first draft to take an offensive player if possible, if it fits, if it makes sense, and the value is decent. Number 2, knowing that Anthony Lynn places a premium on running the football, the Chargers are going to want to improve the protection up front for Phillip Rivers and also the blocking for Melvin Gordon. So this is potentially a way, in terms of that first pick, to serve multiple masters for the Chargers. Because I don't know that one of these wide receivers, for them anyways, is worth taking 7th overall unless they really want to get froggy and gamble on John Ross because he ran a 4.22, but he couldn't even be healthy after that. And when you look at it, you could take a Jamal Adams, and if they did take a Jamal Adams, I most certainly would not knock them for that. Or a Obi Melifonwu, I would not knock them for that. But when you look at the philosophy you're trying to put in place, part of the reason to me for hiring a head coach for that side of the ball is for specific reasons. And for this specific reason is you're trying to get a guy that will get the most out of the remaining time in Phillip Rivers' career. The best way to do that is improve the blocking in front of him. So you've already got your running back, you surmise in Melvin Gordon. There's not a receiver worth taking at this spot. You might feel good about the future at tight end in terms of Hunter Henry, especially if you're bringing Antonio Gates back into the fold for another season. You might feel that an O.J. Howard isn't necessary to take at number 7. As a result, Forrest Gregg makes a ton of sense for this team. He really does. If you feel he's going to be a Zach Martin type, a Brandon Scherf type, then you could justify taking him here 7th overall because, again, it's about matching a philosophy and approach. Now that comes to number 8 in the Carolina Panthers, and I've got them taking now O.J. Howard from Alabama. And part of the reason for this is I look at this team and you're saying this is a team that typically will want to draft in the first round for best player available. It might not draft for immediate need. You look at last year in the draft where they took Vernon Butler at the end of round number 1, even though you already had Star Latulele and Kawan Short. Well, you've got Vernon Butler there because you're thinking about 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And O.J. Howard is the same type of deal. This is a guy that could come in and learn from Greg Olsen, a guy that many people have compared him to. Here is a guy that can come in and contribute right away, both as a blocker and also as a pass catcher or receiver. And here's a guy that could eventually take over for Greg Olsen and be a primary option in that passing game for Cam Newton. Again, just because you already have Greg Olsen, if you're the Panthers on offense, is there anything wrong or criminal about taking an O.J. Howard and having 2 tight ends? It's great if you have 1. Isn't it even better if you have 2? So I wouldn't be surprised if that would be a direction they would go down, even though I'm sure some Panthers fans would be banging on the table at this point in time to take a Dalvin Cook. I don't know if Dalvin Cook fits them as well as an O.J. Howard fits them. And as a result, I think O.J. Howard's a safer pick for them, and he's a more sensible pick for them. It brings me to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 9. You've seen plenty of mocks, including plenty of mine, that have Reuben Foster going there. But if you're going to gamble, if you're the Bengals, you got to get more out of that offense. You need a game changer on that offense to go to A.J. Green. And, Gio Bernard is a role player. Jeremy Hill's entering a contract year, and he hasn't shown that he could be that dude. Dalvin Cook could be an impact player. Dalvin Cook could be a difference maker. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, they don't need to get a bunch of guys. They need to get some impact players. And as much of an impact player long-term that a Reuben Foster could be on the defensive side of the ball in the middle of that defense where they sorely need some speed and athleticism, Dalvin Cook has the potential to be a game changer for them on offense. Imagine what he could do and help out A.J. Green and Andy Dalton in that passing game, Tyler Eifert, and so on. So if the Bengals are going to sit here at pick 9 and gamble, I'd rather have them gamble on the superior prospect, which to me would be Dalvin Cook. Then we get to the Buffalo Bills at number 10. You bring in Sean McDermott, so you bring in a defensive guy. It screams out they need help on offense, but again, you bring in the defensive guy for a reason. They have holes on the defensive side of the ball, especially with Stephon Gilmore signing with the New England Patriots. So what do? You get a guy like Melifonwu at about 6'4", 210, 215 pounds. This is a dude that you look at, and he played safety at UConn. He could play safety at the NFL. Honestly, he could play anywhere in the defensive backfield. He's a guy, it's crazy because he's just a freak type of athlete. Like, to me, based off of his size combination, he's a bigger freak than Byron Jones was coming out of UConn a couple of years ago. But you could play him outside at corner, and he could match up against some of the bigger wide receivers like the Mike Evans and the Julio Jones of the worlds. He's a guy that you could play some inside in the slot, and I mean that because he's athletic enough to stay with running backs. He's big enough and physical enough and athletic enough to stick with tight ends. You could play him in safety. You could utilize him as a Swiss Army knife defensive back all over the place, and I think there are plenty of teams that are going to view Melifonwu as a corner as much as they will a safety, but a unique type of corner that can basically defend anybody on the field in the passing game. And when you start getting into that 7, 8 to 10 range in the draft, that's where you can have that surprise pick or two, that squirrely pick or two. And this is one that I could anticipate potentially happening. Frankly, I don't see how Melifonwu gets out of the top 13. And I'd be stunned at this point if he honestly got outside of the top 10. It's just, when teams look at it, they see this dude that could do all types of things as a defensive back. Somebody's going to fall in love. And as I talk about so frequently, when it comes to certain players, it only takes one team to gum everything up. And that's what I can envision happening. You might not be that surprised about me having Trubisky go to number 12 here to Cleveland. I think it's potentially a good fit for all parties involved. The bigger surprise may potentially be DeShone Kizer going 17 to the Redskins. With all the talk about Kirk Cousins potentially wanting to leave and go play for Kyle Shanahan next year in San Francisco, some of the buzz as well talking about how Mike Mayock may end up being the next Washington Redskins general manager. There's some buzz and chatter about that. Whether that comes to fruition, we'll see. But it would make sense if you're the Redskins. You need to potentially prepare for the possibility of having a dude ready to take over for Kirk Cousins as soon as 2018, if not earlier, if he gets hurt. So why not take the guy that is the number 1 quarterback on Mike Mayock's board in DeShone Kizer? In an ideal world, if you're the Redskins, granted, you wouldn't have had a drunk as a general manager, but furthermore, you wouldn't allow Bruce Allen to fuck shit up again. Furthermore, you would have already re-signed Kirk Cousins long term. But in an ideal world, to make the best out of a bad situation, if you are indeed going to allow Kirk Cousins to leave after this upcoming season, then you need to have somebody that's maybe a year away, but in 2018 he could step in and play, and that would be DeShone Kizer. So to me, that would make a world of sense. Some of you may be surprised about me having Reuben Foster drop to 24. We'll see what happens with him. Because some people view him as a top 10 talent. I do not. I don't grade him as a top 10 talent. I think he has some impact difference-making ability, but I think there are some concerns in his game, some holes and flaws in his game that prevent me from making him like a top 10 graded type of player. But still, potentially a very good prospect. But, when you're mouthing off to medical staff at the combine, you have to be on your P's and Q's there. That's one of those instances where you have to shut your fucking mouth. This is a job interview, bro. And you're fucking yourself up. Now, some teams aren't going to care. And some teams will remove the dude off the board entirely. It's funny how that works. I wouldn't remove him off the board for something stupid like that. But I might start to have some reservations if I'm thinking about taking this guy in the top 10. Because you can't bust on top 10 picks. If you bust on top 10 picks, that's the best way to ensure that you continue to sit there and be picking in the top 10 year after year as a franchise. But for the Raiders, if you got a guy like Reuben Foster to fall to you at number 24, and I don't know if he falls that far, but there's a possibility and a potential that he does. Especially because I think some teams are going to have questions about whether he's better suited to play weak side backer or middle backer. At the NFL level, they're not going to really be sure. At least some teams won't be. But Reuben Foster, if you could get him in Oakland and you could get him to beef up the middle of that defense, you're going a long ways to improving that defense and potentially stamping yourself as a Super Bowl contender. Those are some of the picks that I wanted to talk about. If you've got questions about some of the other choices that I put in here, you want to shit on me for some of them, fine, I don't care. Do it in the comment section or on Twitter at TheJeffSchlegel is the Twitter handle. Hopefully this will be uploaded sometime in the next 24 hours. We'll see. I'll do another mock draft next week. And if I know that this actually uploads in a decent amount of time, then I will start flying through the prospect scouting report videos. For Christ's sakes, I've got so many actual reports done. I was waiting to record the videos until YouTube actually decided to start working again. So if I find out that it starts working again, then you guys are going to get a whole bunch of prospect videos left, right, and straight up your ass.